This conference will now be recorded.
अरे मॅडमचा आवाज नाही येत.
Madhuri ma'am, you're not audible.
Just a minute, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to you all. Behalf of Shri Domali Mitra Mandal, Matushri Kashiben Motilal Patel, Senior College of Commerce and Science. As research is very important area in academics, so we have come up with a webinar series on a journey to the research with collaboration Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai. I welcome Dr. Kinnari Thakkar ma'am and our speaker Dr. Jayashree Parikh ma'am. Welcome ma'am, both of you. Thank you very much to accept my invitation ma'am. I would like to invite Dr. Kinnari Thakkar to say a few words. Ma'am, please.
Vice Principal Madam Madhuri of KM Patel College of Commerce, distinguished resource persons, dear participants. It is indeed a proud moment for me to welcome you all on behalf of Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai for this national level online faculty development program. I am extremely delighted to be a part of this program as the topic is very dear to me. Friends, we are all aware that post-COVID, the landscape of education will witness a drastic change. The future of education henceforth will be a hybrid or a blended mode of teaching learning. The entire dynamics of education will be focused on innovative techniques of teaching and learning through the use of ICT. I believe that work from home has made all of us more hyperactive and receptive. As I believe that we are working more than what we were working earlier when we used to go, because whatever time we were traveling is now used for attending all webinars. That way is a good sign that we are getting an opportunity of learning more and maybe acquiring a lot of new skills and knowledge. I'm sure that in future there will be no single institution who has not adopted the method of online teaching, and whenever any institution goes for NAC accreditation, the criteria of ICT enabled tools and techniques will never left unfilled. You will have lots and lots of programs to be entered in the use of ICT. It was once upon a time challenge for almost all the institutions who were going for accreditation. Friends, I'm sure that this FDP will open new vistas and sharpen your skills in research. And I wish you all the best for taking part in this FDP and self-motivation and the self-motivation which you have shown in acquiring new information, knowledge, and skills in the field of research and development. So I also thank Madam for giving the opportunity to collaborate, and wish that all of you will have a good and rich learning experience. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I'd like to invite Rupesh Patil to proceed the webinar with introduction of our institute as well as our speaker of the day. Rupesh, over to you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to our respected Vice Principal, ma'am. Good respected resource person, Principal Dr. Jayashree Parikh, ma'am, my dear colleagues, and all my dear participants of this webinar from various colleges. I'm Rupesh Patil, coordinator of IT department and also coordinator of this webinar. Heartily welcomes you all for this national level webinar of 6 days faculty development program FDP webinar series on a journey to the research from 11th May to 16th May, organized by Research Committee of Matushri KM Patel Senior College in collaboration with the Department of Commerce, University of Mumbai. Matushri Kashiben Motilal Patel Senior College of Commerce and Science obtained permission in the year of 2008 for starting degree college and is affiliated to the Mumbai University. The college renders education leading to the Bachelor of Commerce BCom, Bachelor of Management Studies BMS, Bachelor of Banking and Insurance BBI, Bachelor of Accounting and Finance BAC, Bachelor of Science BSc Computer Science, Bachelor of Science BSc IT. This FDP, the webinar series, is an effort to enrich all the areas of research as research problem, research proposal, framing objectives, hypotheses, drafting questionnaire, review of literature, research methodologies, sampling techniques, data analysis, citation, plagiarism, abstract writing, research paper writing, thesis writing, covered by all our eminent personality speakers. That's why this FDP is very useful for all faculty members and researchers of any discipline. So moving towards our first day webinar, I would like to introduce our today's person, Dr. Jayashree Parkman. She has many more degrees, MSc, PhD, and MBA. She is currently principal of Nav Samaj Mandal Degree College, Vile Parle, Mumbai, with having 35 years of experience in University of Mumbai and also recognized research guide for PhD. She authored 30 original titles of textbook for many universities in India on chemistry and environmental studies. Also, she was invited speaker for various national and international conferences. With this, she is active member of Rotary Club and Inner Wheel Club of Bombay Film City. Also, she is active member of editorial board of research journals. Also, she is external expert member on advisory board of college. Also, member in inspection panel of Government of Maharashtra for granting permission for postgraduate diploma courses, Adult Research Association attached to the Ministry of Textiles, New Delhi, Government of India, and participate, presented, and chaired many more technical sessions for various national and international conferences. So, I am feeling very lucky that we are having such talented, experienced personality with us for today's session. Without wasting much more time, I would like to hand over this session to our today's respected resource person, Dr. Jayashree Parikh ma'am. Once again, welcome to all participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rupesh Patil, for
Thank
the
you,
very good introduction. I mean, your kind words have made me feel very, very elevated on this day. Also, I thank Dr. Kinnari for giving the proper introduction for this particular session. And as she has said rightly, that we all have landed up working more and more during this COVID period, online working, and we have grasped and understood many more advantages of the digital field. So today's my session is on it's the pioneering one, because we are starting our the journey of the research today, and I thank the management of the college, authorities of the college, and Dr. Madhuri herself in person for involving me into this particular journey of the research. So research is my very passionate area. And when I think about the research or talk about the research, I really start thinking that the speed with which the research should go on in our country is been picking up very well, and the future is very, very bright. Let's go to the today's topic without wasting much of the time. It's the research proposal and the research methodology, problem, framing objectives, and the drafting the questionnaire. So now, to begin with, for any researcher, the first question it comes into the mind is, what is the research after all? The person who is just initiating an idea to conduct the research for either for the degree or for the knowledge, there this question comes into the mind. So basically the research is nothing but any innovative idea which has been cropping up in your mind, and then you are setting a methodology or a chain of the activities to be done to achieve the outcome. So that is nothing but the research. Now going to the actual journey of the research, you can say, then here it's basically, it has been starting with the research problem. That is when the innovative idea or some new question comes in the mind, then there is some problem is been there. Now this problem is obviously it is being based on the observations in the surroundings, observations in the life, observations in the field, in the area, and so on. So once this research problem crops up in your mind, after that there is the methodological chain starts. So if we roughly put it up a flow diagram of the research process by itself, so it goes with the review concepts and the various theories on that, then the review the previous research findings. That is the problem which is being in the particular field. In that field, on that kind of the problem or on that category of the problem, what all work is being already been done, how many people have worked across the globe on this particular aspect, and what all their research findings have been there. So this comes from the review of the literature. Literature review is referring the previous work in the form of the various types of the publications. And once you do this, then it comes to your mind the what is the type of the research you can conduct, and then forming a tentative hypothesis on it, going to design your research, that is the how the sampling will be done, how the collecting data will be done, how the data will be analyzed, and finally how the compilation of your findings will be put it up in the form of a report. So this is the research journey which has been comprising of total 7 steps. So all these 7 steps, they begin with only and only one particular point, that you are having desire to do research. You are having willingness to do research. You are doing the research for yourself and you are passionate to find the answer to your question. So with that particular kind of the feeling in one person, or it gives the excellent initiative for a researcher to pursue the process and find the outcome and put it up to the society. So in general, the method is, though it is the total in the methodology, there are the 7 different steps, but if we compile it in a shorter way, then it is only our previous knowledge, from the previous knowledge and idea, then from the idea it goes into the independent verifications, literature review, experimental aspect in case of the science technology, or it can go into the numerical model, then going into the analytical model, so on and so forth. So coming to the main point, what happens at the end of the research? The end of the research is basically the outcome is being recognized as a major contribution to the field. It can be the field which has been, or any field, whichever we talk about, it is always connected with the community and with the humans and with the society upliftment. So the outcome of the any particular problem gives you the major, gives you a credit that you have given the major contribution to the field. So now, what is the uniqueness of the research community? In the research community, all of us, those who have gathered even on this platform, we all know that we all use almost the same or similar scientific methods, all follow the same ethical principles, no similar, it is same. Ethical principles are always been same in case of the research field. All of us use the same or the similar language for the reporting, and all provide the information to the worldwide community, reported in the full and open manner, and all acknowledge the previous work. So we give the citation, we give the recognition to the precedent workings, that is whoever has worked on this problem in this field, on that aspect, considering the various different parameters, but we always give the acknowledgement for our previous researchers. So this is what is the uniqueness of any research community by and large. Now going to the research and methodology. As I mentioned, the question comes in the mind, that is, what is the research? Now, research is nothing but, by this time, every researcher would get it, that it is nothing but the systematic investigation into a problem and study using the material and the sources in order to establish the concrete conclusions or the constructive conclusions. Now, when we are going to perform the research, the first point remains is the research proposal. So when we plan to conduct the research, then we have to put it up a proposal. Now this proposal contains the title of our the study. That is what we are going to study. The title framing is the first step. After choosing a subject, after choosing the topic, then we have to put it up in the form of a title and then prepare a proposal. So proposal is nothing but the plan or the suggestion of the various methodologies what we are using or what the researcher is going to use to find out the answer to his problem or his question. So the research proposal is basically, it's in the documented form which gives the outline that how you are proposing to undertake your research for the studies purpose. Now going further to the research methodology. The previous title I had given it as the research and methodology. Now, research and methodology is the first you are planning to do the research, and then you are thinking about the methodology, and then finally you are landing up into your research methodology. That is what you are going to do that. In general, several different types of the methodologies can be there, different steps can be there, but what all you are going to choose it according to your nature of the problem, and then how to expedite to get the solution. So research methodology is, again, it is the systematic way of solving a problem to get the solution, and the plan and structure of the investigation in order to obtain the evidence to the answer of the research question. So here, whatever research question is there in your mind, that question is going to be found to the solution method, finding the solution, and to answer all the research questions which are arising in the mind of the researcher, or even if considering the questions may arise in the reader's mind. The researcher is working on his own, but he has to also think about that what questions the community may have it and what answers the community may be expecting out of your research. So this is a picturesque representation for the types of the research methodologies. So the qualitative research and the quantitative research, and then is the research by the practitioners. The three categories we are putting it by and large, considering the various fields, that is arts, commerce, science, technology, medical, pharmaceuticals, and so on. So here, in this case, in the qualitative, it can go into the historical way, then through the whatever the content you are getting from there, the content analysis will be done. In the quantitative, it will be the correlational one, then it is the maybe the single subject or the multiple subject. Surveying methods can be there, and the research for the practitioner would be on the basis of the data which is being collected after the experimental investigations. Now, the research methodology. The research methodology, there's a lot of noise. Hello? There is a disturbance.
Yes, ma'am, I'm finding movies.
Yeah, there is a disturbance, lot of disturbance in there.
Yes, I'm finding. Ma'am,
It's
you
fine?
continue.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So here, the RM, that is the research methodology, involves basically the choosing the subject, then the topic, then the framing the title, then making the proposal, then setting the methodology, and setting also very important is the timeline. And then go for the next step of that. It is the data collection techniques or the tools you have to choose it, then the procedures or the steps for the streamlining your collected data is to be done, and then that data is to be put to the analysis by using or choosing the various techniques and the tools. And then finally, your outcome or the whatever the output you have got it at the end of the work, it should be compiled in the lucid language of your own and presenting the report of that to the concerned authority. If you are doing the PhD, then you are submitting the compiled report in the form of a thesis to the university to where you are registered. And if you are going into simple publication, then you are submitting your publication to the publishing authority, that is to the recognized journals. By and large, we go for the recognition of the journals which are being UGC recognized, because we all are the researchers which are connected with the university, and the UGC is the alma mater for the every university in our country. So we abide by the rules of the publications for under which are being recognized by UGC. Now going to the types of the research. Now going to types of research, there are the 5 important types of the research. That is, either it is the descriptive versus the analytical one, or it is the applied research versus the fundamental research. It is also the quantitative research versus the qualitative research, or it is conceptual, or it is the empirical one. And a few other types of the researches are also been there, which are coming into the discussion in the subsequent part. Now, what is the importance of the research methodology? Why a researcher should conduct the research by the set methodology? Why not into any random way, or in the hayway, or in the way chosen by each and every person? Now, this is basically the methodology is being given the utmost importance to have the uniformity of the working, discipline in the working, and there is the set steps for given to a researcher who is going to follow that in the guidance of the recognized guide, where the guide is abiding by the rules of the university, and the university is been abiding by the rules and the norms set by the apex authority, that is the UGC. So here, designing a methodology is been necessary for a researcher, because he can know about the problem and he can also set a method to find the solution to the problem. So the research methodology, when it is been followed in toto, it aids the researcher in selecting also what the best method possible to solve the particular problem. Also, it tells about the output of the selected method with its accuracy, with its relevance, with its reproducibility, because the research is done across the globe, not only in our country. When we are presenting a research, we presenting the research to the world. We are not presenting only to the limited community or the limited number of the people. Our thesis is going to be available across the globe to the interested other researchers for the references. And therefore, the research methodology to be followed is of the utmost importance. So this knows also the efficiency of the method also is been available, or it is been the research scholar can get it that how efficient a method A is over method B, or maybe the method C is better in certain aspects than the method A, and it is having certain drawbacks as compared to the method B. So there is a comparative, the analysis is also being available to the researcher when the researcher is been putting or applying the particular method to solve the problem and get the solution. Now, various stages of the research. Stages can be compiled in the list, in the form of a list. That is, you have chosen the topic for the research, then you are explaining the research problem, then you are going for the literature survey, then you are going for the reference collection through the literature survey, and you are jotting down the references which are relevant to your work or your problem and your topic. Then the assessment of the present status of the selected topic. That is, the present status of the selected topic can be known from the literature survey, and this topic, how many others have explored this using a particular parameter, and then to avoid the repetition of the work, you are to set your topic, your problem, and your study considering the different parameter. than what the previous workers have already explored. Then putting out is the formulation of the hypothesis, research design, and then the actual investigation and the analysis of the information obtained and the results interpretation, compilation, and putting up the report of the research, your research, what the research scholar has been done. So coming to down to the components of a research project or research proposal or research problem. You are framing a title, which the title is been giving the information about your aim, what work you want to do it, and what is the intention of doing this and why you are doing it. Then you are putting it up at the introduction. Now, introduction, why you are putting it up is this: the introduction should compile all the previous work done on that particular or the relevant topic or the similar topic or nearly allied topic. So introduction is the very important part of your report writing, and this introduction should contain the references as well. So you are coming to writing of the introduction only actually after the point 4, that is the literature review, and first you make the literature review and then only you will be able to compile the introduction, even though in the components of the research proposal, that introduction stands on the 2nd point and the review of literature goes on the 4th point. But the review of literature about your chosen problem needs to be done before going for the writing. Then hypothesis in case of the type of the research, then the purpose or the objective of the study, that why you are doing this. Here you want to put a question: what, why, how. So here the why is coming into the objective. What is research is being that what question you have already got the answer in your mind. What you are going to do, that also answer you have got it in your mind, but why you are doing that will be put it up into the objective of your study or purpose of your study. That what way it is going to help the society by and large, what way it is being utmost important for the conducting the research on that particular topic. Then you are planning your work, that is the research design, then setting the method, setting the sampling techniques and collecting the sample and the data analysis, references you are listing, and so on. So these are the components of the research proposal. So now what a researcher need to know? He must know the background of the study. What study, what topic he is studying, that one he must know the background of that. So he must know that who has done this work before in any other country or in our own country or in our nearby in the same university probably, and what is the background of that study, what parameters he had taken for that particular study, and you are trying to put it with respect to the other parameter. That means you are doing something new. Then framing the problem statement, objectives, significance, limitations, literature review, and all these components remain the same. What the researcher is supposed to know when he is been taking up the research on that particular point or object on that topic. Now, what stages a research proposal can be? It is the formulating and clarifying topic. That is, the topic has to be framed in such a way, that is, the title should be framed in such a way which is been giving the answers to the which makes the other reader as a interesting, that he gets attracted to go through your thesis or go through your article, that this is something, this researcher is been putting up something very, very useful to me as well, and that the inquisitiveness or the curiosity should be developed looking at the title. Other all aspects remain the same, what have been covered into the previous slides. Now, when it comes to the choice of a research problem, now how, by and large, how you should go for the choice. Now, you should choose, by and large, in the branch of the study at your postgraduate level. Now, what is the reason for this? That is, probably at the postgraduate level, when you are whatever you have studied, the topics which have been related to the branch, you have studied it into the more details as compared to your undergraduate study. In undergraduate study, you had got the broader way to study the subject, and then you are going with the apex of the triangle or the pyramid, and you are going to again the narrowing the area and deepening the study. So here in the post-graduation, you are studying in the particular branch in the more details, and hence you may be more creative. You will be having more questions. You will be having more clarity on the untapped areas. That is wherever the research is being still required, it is being needed, and it is being possible. So you can aim at the most appropriate trust area, and you can choose your topic near to your heart and near to your interest, and that will make your research journey also very, very smooth, because before venturing into the research, if the research scholar is being almost 40 to 50% aware about the thrust area of the topic which he is choosing, then his remaining research journey goes on very, very smoothly, very, very into the creative and the innovative way, and the timeline meeting becomes very easy for the person, because he is very, very clear about what path he has to take it and what will be the flow of his work. So choice parameter of the measure or for the measurement, suppose it is the literacy survey reveals the untapped parameter. Now I give you here one example of the life commodity. Now life commodity is one of the commodity which we are
I'm
always
sorry to
using
interrupt. Echo is coming from your side. Some echo is coming.
Is it? Now, is it okay?
Yeah, now it is okay. Yes, ma'am.
Better?
Thank you.
Okay, okay. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So the example, we would put it up as one of the edible commodity as well as a usable. I would not say edible, but it is the usable. Now, all of us, we know we are using the mineral oils, we are using the edible oils, we are Is it okay? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a sec. Parul sir is there. Parul sir, kindly mute your mic. Parul sir.
Yes, ma'am. You continue. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So here, categorically, the 4 different oils are been there, which are mineral, edible, non-edible, medicinal, and the essential. Now, the essential oils are being used also into the medicinal field. Non-edible medicinal fields, medicinal oils are also.
Vivo, तू इधर आना. ऋषि.
Kindly mute your mics, please. Ma'am, please continue.
Okay. Yes, these are the punches of the online thing, which all of us, we are learning basically.
No, madam, I think Rupesh can do it. Anybody whose mic is on, no, madam, tell Rupesh to do it immediately. He has to be on constantly on
Rupesh
this,
sir.
and then he can do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Mr. Rupesh, please do that.
मैम प्रॉब्लम इज देयर. मैं उनको म्यूट कर रहा हूँ, बट वो अनम्यूट हो जा रहे बार बार उधर से.
They are doing themselves.
Yes, ma'am. But Rupesh, आप कंटिन्यूस करते रहो, क्योंकि ये हम लोग भी यही काम करते हैं, साथ में रहते हैं ना. So we do that only. Continuously trying to unmute. और जिसका 2-3 बार हुआ ना, उसको निकाल दो, चलेगा. Really, because you know you can't disturb the entire crowd.
Correct.
Yes.
That is
Sure,
also
ma'am.
right thing. It is.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
So this is the example what I was putting it up. That is, now suppose you are taking up a research study in a particular the use of the commodity. Now or it is the area of it is the food or so whatever, but it's for the just for the example. So here we are having the different oils where it is the mineral oils are been there, edible, non-edible, medicinal, and the essential. So now if we want to study, suppose we take up the example only of the edible oils where we are very, very close to it because we are using it every day. Mineral oils and all that will be used only into the vehicles or into the certain other purpose. And the non-edible medicinal as well as the essential also, maybe the layman is not very much connected with that unless there somebody is into the field. So let's consider the edible oils. Now, several edible oils which are been available in the market. Few of the names can be that some people must be using Dhara, or some people that is groundnut oil if we consider. Then it is a Godrej company or Fortune company or Saffola company and so on. So a lot of research that goes on into the areas of this particular commodity and which is very much known to all of us. But over the years, we are so much used to pick up the any particular oil which is edible into our day-to-day routine, and few of us who are very particular about the or very health conscious, there they go for only a particular brand. Now, for a researcher, now this is a question of the layman, but for a researcher, how it makes an interesting thing. That is, a researcher can study the very popular nowadays, of which a lot of things have been talked about, that is the soybean oil. And or the soya flour or the soya, this all the eatables, etc., 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 saying that it has got the lot of protein and lot of nutritional value and lot of vitamin E is there, K is there, and all these things. So now here, if a researcher chooses to do his study, then how he should go about? He can choose the particular oil, that is the soya oil, which can be tested for certain parameters. Now the parameters can be of its own physical characteristics, or the parameters can be the commodity related or the community related, that is the what is the percentage of the people who are preferring the soybean oil. Another aspect is the whether the soya oil, even though we talk about so much, but is it usable directly or not? So the answer to this is it is not being used directly. It has been always used into some medium, and then the blending of the oil and making the different blend, another oil can be enriched, etc., etc. Now those who are into this kind of the research can choose the parameter of the blending, etc. Now the another thing, the arbitrary example, we can take it about the banking sector for the commerce people. Now this oil and all that, it is for the food and the science and all that. So let's go for the commerce kind of the example, that is the banking sector. Now we have got the different types of the banks in our country or across the globe. There are the various ways in which the banks work, their resolutions and their the rules, norms, etc. would be a different way. So over here, when we talk about the suppose survey a researcher takes up, that is the people who prefer only the PSU banks, that is only public sector banks. They do not just trust the working of the private banks at all. They are not concerned with the fast working, speed working, internet working properly, giving messages, etc., etc., all these things. They are not concerned with that. They want the traditional way of their working, so they would be preferring the PSU banks. Where there is another bunch or another group who is preferring only private banks because they want the facilities what the bank is been providing, because they are well versed with the usability of that and the methodology, how to use it and how to take the advantage of that. So now there is the two different groups which are being, one into the completely PSU, another is completely into the private sector, the innovative banks. The third sector comes, they go only into the cooperative banks. And they are very comfortable with the working of the cooperative bank. There is the community cooperative banks also. That is, they want to put their money into only that. Now over here, if a researcher is being choosing, then he can choose the relevant parameter to compile his topic and compile his thesis. So that is into the banking sector he can work. Going to the arts and all these things, it has been there, certain things are been into the literature, where it has been choosing a particular author, of which then the critic about that, or it is the poems, or it is the other kind of the literature in the history, in the sociology, and so on. So basically, the researcher is supposed to have a parameter, or it is the group of parameters for comparison and the measurement which is to be done after collecting the data for their research. Going to the statement of the research problem. Now, how the statement should be. Statement of the problem should indicate why, what, how. This I already, in my flow of talk, I have already told, but still there is a slide of that. So here, why the research needs to be done on the particular topic, and what will be its outcome, how this outcome is been relevant, and how desired solution to be obtained. So the statement of the research problem should contain or should indicate these the parameters or these points very, very clearly. Now, this is the flow chart for once you decide to do the research, then how it goes about. That is identifying the problem, literature review, plan of the research, then the determining the sample, writing the protocol, then the ethical committee approval, particularly into the animal research or into the medical research, then the pilot study and the main study. This is again, it has been relevant to the qualitative and the quantitative both. Going to the presentation and the analysis of the results, then the hypothesis and the testing, and then the generalization on the interpretation, report writing, and the publication. So this is a complete cycle of the 7 stages which I had shown you into the second slide. So over here, this has been showing with more in between steps as well, giving you the procedural steps in the research. Now going to the research design. Now research design is, that is the decision regarding what to be done, where to be done, when to be done, how much to be done, and by what means it should be done. So concerning a research study, it can constitute the complete research design. So the research design is basically, it is the task of defining the research problem and preparation of the research project, and then the which has been known popularly as the research design. So every researcher, once he decides to do the research, he has to go for the previous steps and finally put it up the research design for himself, and in consultation with the other guiding authority. Now, steps in the research, you are to that the set and the set of the test and the measurements are to be done. Sampling needs to be done. Test to be performed. That is, repeat till you get the constant outcomes. And this is particularly applicable into the scientific one, where there is an actual measurement. So using certain instruments, the measurement is being done. Like suppose somebody is measuring the viscosity of a liquid, and if he is using the Ostwald's viscometer or the Redwood viscometer, depending upon the type of the sample, there this particular comes into the more applicable one. That is a test to be performed, and it repeat till it give you the constant outcome. Now measurements and the results recording. You have to record it in the form of a table or into the chart, and then you have to plot the graph or plot the pie diagram, or it is the candlestick diagram. Now interpretation of the results in the comparative terms, and then drawing the conclusion. Drawing the conclusion at the end of the research is very, very critical and very, very crucial. And that needs to be done by the researcher in a very proper way, and then put it up into the write-ups, and then go for the publications. So now components of the research designing will be, first will be, you will have to design the sampling pattern. That is how you are going to prepare the samples. Then observational design, statistical design, that is for the analysis, and the operational design. So when you go for the sampling design, which deals with the methods of the selecting the items to be observed for the study. Observational, it is relates to the condition under which the observation are to be created. Statistical is the question, and it is the information and the data is being gathered are to be how to be analyzed, and the operational design. Now in the operational, it deals with the techniques by which the procedure is being satisfied in the sampling, by which procedures they satisfied in the sampling. Now going to the objective and the work plan. Now objective of the study is to be framed in an appropriate way, but there is no restriction about how many points of the objective you should put it, but the minimum expected is the 3 points at least. That is the 3 objectives of your study should be there, and it can go to the more also, and it can be listed precisely. And the work plan will include the major phases of your project. That is how you are phasing out your project for in the complete methodology, and then estimate when you will start each stage. That is the stage of the work, that is the timeline. Then you have to decide also the how long it will take. That is how much time it is going to consume. Now here let me tell you one thing. That is one researcher who has been doing open-end research without any particular target time. Then he doesn't have any timeline requirement as such. But one who is registering for PhD and he wants to complete his PhD as per the stipulated norms of the affiliating university, which are being laid down effectively by our UGC, then he has to have very meticulous timeline for himself and for his research project. And he also should keep, in my opinion, I should say that you always keep a buffer time, because the unpredictable problems crop up sometimes which may slow down your speed of the work. And therefore, the second step, that is, you have to estimate when you will start each stage of the work and how long it will take. The working on that, every research scholar has to do very, very properly. It's very important to have the working into on the time. Then you have to sequence your work, flow, your set up a flow and the timeline for the study. Now, when you go to the sampling, in the sampling, you are to take up the relevant respondent. We should say the respondent. If you are doing the research in the marketing, you are doing research in the other areas, into the finance, into the HR, or into the IT, or into the any other relevant fields where there is the sample is your public. That is the respondent is not a machine, but respondent is the human. There you choose the population, and this population should have the large population. Say you are choosing the population of the 1,000 persons which are being related to or which are likely to give you the response. And out of that, at least 10% of your vital sample you have to choose. So those who are the most active, most prompt, most responsive, very clear in their response, such 10% you have to sort it out, and that is your sample. Now, the sampling technique will be either into the quantitative clustering. That is, this the whole population, what you have done, what you have collected or what you have spotted, that one you bring down into the quantitative cluster sampling. Or it is the random sampling, size of the sample and the population. As I told you, that is from the population, at least 10% you should take it as a sample. And what our university says, that the population should be minimum 500 in certain, most of these areas where the descriptive research or the qualitative research is being done. Now here, in certain niche areas where such a large population is not possible at all, there the university gives the consideration for such researchers. That is, yes, looking at the problem, looking at the title of the research, it is understood that it is a very niche area, and here more number of the respondents, relevant respondents will not be possible, and there the population size can be even as small as I have seen in my life, that it can be around only 70 to 100 also. But there is no sample, is not a proportion of that population. Sample is the population itself, because there whatever is the relevant population is being chosen by the researcher. They are the actual people available to give the response in that particular field. So there the population to the sample proportion is not very relevant, whereas in the other areas where the large population is being possible for the researcher to spot, then there the minimum rule says for population should be of 500 and the sample should be of the 10% of that. So there should be the 50 persons in the sample or 50 respondent. Then the experimental and the control group and the prevention of the bias, etc. All these things the researcher is supposed to observe. Going to actual surveying or the data collection methodologies, there the methodology can be directly the subjective interview, that is one-on-one. Then it can be the circulating the questionnaires, or it can be the discussions by mode of any digital means, that it can be the video calls, or it can be just the telephonic calls, or it can be by the email correspondence, and or it is the group discussions which are being arranged physically again, and then the surveys and objectives are being discussed, and the response is being taken. Now the research design for quantitative and the qualitative, these two we are by and large is been categorizing that, looking at the types of the research, but then the quantitative research and the qualitative research designing is more popularly taken up by the researchers. So going to the data collection is as it is, the primary data can be collected by the observation through the personal interview, telephone interview, questionnaire, and through schedules. So this is basically the compiled chart of the information, collecting the information tool. That is for the qualitative, as we go for, it is the online forums we can go for that, or online communities can be there, web survey can be taken up, focused groups can be there, or the depth in this particular group survey can be taken up. Then going to the quantitative one, again there the face-to-face, web, phone, mail, and the central locations, that is at a particular location when you are using it. So basically these all the sources of the data, whatever we are talking about, it can be categorized or it can be compiled in the form of the sources in the external and the internal. Now the internal sources are not being subcategorized further, but the external sources give you the two types of the data. Internal sources will be giving by and large direct data, that is the primary one, whereas the external one can also give generate the secondary data. By and large, at the project level, at the undergraduate or even the postgraduate level, it is the secondary data is being used. But for the PhD purpose, preferably every research scholar should aim at using the primary data, that is generating the primary data, not the secondary data, because the value of the your work when it comes to the really evaluating it by the examiners, as well as later on for your climbing the ladder in future, then the value for your PhD, value for your thesis will be if your primary data is more prominent as compared to the secondary data for the work. So over here in the external sources, what can be the primary data? It can be the documents, it can be the creative works, interviews you have taken, other man-made materials in case of the certain areas, surveys which are being taken up where it is the direct response is being obtained. And in the secondary data, then it is the unpublished thesis which has been available to you for the reference which you are using, and the dissertations which are been there, which are you get the access to, and manuscripts, then books published, and the journals, that is articles, research papers which have been already published, that serves as your secondary data, which you are taking it as a basis for the carrying out your research work. Now, once the data is being collected, suppose, then it is the data analysis we go for that, and then the analysis of the data will require the 3 different stages. That is, first is coding, that you are tabulating your data, you are streamlining your data, you are giving them the numbers, etc. Then you are editing it, and they ultimately you are using it for the analysis by using the various methods. But in this lecture, we are not continuing with the analysis, because the data analysis is to be taken by the other person. We are going to the theoretical one, that is the literature review. Now, how to do the literature review, how to write the literature review, the general guidelines are being discussed over here. That you are starting with the introduction of your literature review. Then what the introduction you are writing, I mean, what are you writing in your introduction? You are writing basically your topic, that is what is the major topic of the research in your mind, then the broad problem area and the time period of the particular problem under the consideration, and the general importance of your topic for those who are interested in your chosen field, or the stakeholders who are, I mean, basically who are referring to your work. So here in your work, when you are compiling the literature review, you are to have these points necessarily to be highlighted or to be compiled in a proper way in the introduction. Then going to the introduction, how it should be and why it is being there. So introduction is basically you are introducing the reader to the literature review written for your research work. And the topics here, it should cover the research work which is being cited by the researchers, which is relevant to the topic you are working on. And it's very important because the study of your literature review will be used by you as an evidence. Because the literature review gives you the work done by the others, which is being basically, it is the evidence that on this particular problem, some previous work is already been done, and this clearly defines, or it clearly indicates that the problem or the topic or the area or the field which you have chosen, it is of the relevant importance. So this you used as the evidence to emphasize that the research topic, problem, question is of very, very important in the perspective of the societal use, or it is the human utility, or it is for the building the certain policies, etc., etc. Here, this one is very, very important. That conclusion the research scholar can draw, and as well as the reader can have the idea about that. Then comes the parameters and the variables, which I already also talked about with the example of the banking and the example of the oil, etc. But in the literature review, when you are covering it, all the relevant parameter, you have to cover the relevant parameter. You are going to use it, different tests which you are going to perform it, different properties of the particular object, or the study material in your mind, or the variables being used by the other researchers, majorly which are being relevant to your topic. All these must be included in your literature review. And the other most important part is the compilation of the review, or the structuring your literature review. Now, how you will structure it? Now, you can structure the literature review in terms of the topical order, that is the main topics or the issues, and then emphasize the relationship of these issues to the main problem. Or you can just structure the literature review in the form of the chronological order. Now, what is this chronological order? The chronological order is following simply the dates and the years. So you can either start with the latest time literature available on that particular topic and going backward. And by and large, the number of years is being considered is at least a decade. That is, if you are starting from backside in the 2020 when you are doing your research, then at least from the 2009-10, you must consider 9-10 onwards. You must consider as the previous evidence for the topic on which you are working. Chronological order is a little more common amongst the researchers to put it up, but it depends, because when you are writing the introduction and when you are writing the literature review, in both the cases, the cross reference is going to be appeared. And there, when you are writing it over there, you are putting basically the numbers. That is, when you are writing, suppose somebody's statement you are writing, and that work that person has done somewhere in the 2000, maybe it is 11 or 12. Now, the commonest mistake is being observed by the researchers in compilation is that they go little bit heavy in putting the references, which in my opinion, and I hope that the most of the examiners, those who are referees, they would accept that the structuring of the literature review, as well as going into the introduction, the chronological order should be maintained in a very, very systematic way to have the beautiful flow of your writing. So this is very, very important. That is, when you are citing the work done in 2012 first, and then you are citing the work done in 2014, it sounds good. But if you put up the 2015 first, and then 12, and then 11, and then 14, and then 13, I mean, that goes a little bit, the flow and the continuity of the reading for a reviewer, for a referee, and for any layman reader as well, is not giving the clear-cut idea, and it indicates that the writer is totally jumbled up. So that should be avoided. So now, process of reviewing the literature, you have to search the relevant literature, you have to sort and prioritize the retrieved literature, then you have to have the analytical reading of the papers, you should have the evaluative readings of the papers, then the critical observations and the comparisons across the study should be done. Then you have to sequence and organize the content, and then write the review. And here, without any plagiarism, because when you are reading someone else's material and you are using that as a basis or the evidence for yourself, for your particular work, there direct reproduction of the matter is attracting the plagiarism. And once your write-up is being caught up by the affiliating university in the plagiarism norms, in that case you will be compelled to write it again and recompile it, and your waste of time will be there. Now, this is one of the reasons I mentioned about keeping a buffer time. The buffer time is very much required in your targeted study, that particularly when you are doing research for your PhD purpose. In that case, all the unpredictable issues should be kept in the mind, and for that, to rectify those issues, your time should be there with you. You should not run out of time. So here, these are the steps for the reviewing the literature and putting it up. Now, organizing the flow. Now, organizing the flow by discussing in order. That is, you have to first go for the nature of the problem. Then you have to put up the causes of the problem. Then you have to go for the scope of the problem or the effects, or who are the stakeholders who are being affected by that problem. Then go for the plausible solution for the problem, and then go and relate it to the regional, national, or the global scenario to implement the solution which you are proposing. So how far it has been possible. So any researcher should keep all these points in the mind. That is, first you are putting it up as the what problem you have taken up in your mind, what is the nature of that, what are the reasons for that particular problem, then what is the scope of that problem, what is the effect of that problem on any stakeholders, and then what is the plausible solution you can suggest. And Then relevance of that in terms of the percentage of the possibilities for the implementing that across the region or across the nation or globally. So depending upon the intensity of the problem, there will be the solution will be viewed accordingly. So if the problem is a routine problem, which is not much relevant, much severe, much affecting, in that case, then the work remains at that level. But certain the very, very vital topics when you are working on it, then that has got the implementation criteria as well. Now, when you are sequencing, then there are the two different approaches are normally being observed in the literature review. That is the funnel approach and the point approach. Now here funnel approach involves, that is a general to specific, and the point approach is to the point, it is being focused. So this depends on the researcher. Normally by and large, it has been going from the broader to the specific, but in certain cases it is very much, it is a especially I have observed that where it is the science or the technology, where it is the answer remains 1 to 1 only. There is no variation about it, there is no range about it, there is no grades about it. There it is the point approach is been going into the flow of the literature. Now when you summarize the literature review, now summary should include the first of all work done on the problem, which is your evidence. What has not been done, that is your void and the lacuna. What needs to be done is your potential, and then emphasis on your point that why your study is important. You can very clearly put up this. Once you are answering the three things, that is you are having your evidence, you know your lacuna, and you also know your potential, then you can put your emphasis. And then you put forth the question or the hypothesis and ensure that it is very clearly linked to your literature review. Now the references, how to arrange it. That is the all sources of your information, which should be viewed using as the evidences, needs to be cited in the literature review, and it should be listed in the references in the proper order. And to sum up, the literature review should include introduction, summary, all these things we have already considered it. So now the reviewing process, how your process goes? Process goes with the searching the literature, then sorting and the prioritizing, analytical reading, evaluative reading, comparison, organizing, and the writing the review. So I hope the literature review is clear to all the listeners over here. Now, what are the common errors which are being made by the writer, that is by the researcher? Review is not logically organized, or review doesn't focus on the most important part of the study, or review doesn't relate the literature findings in of the current topic of the study. Too few references are being referred, or most commonly verified, and the outdated references are being cited, and the recent references are not being observed over there. Then goes the review is not, review isn't written in author's own words. This is very, very common, which I told that you have to avoid your plagiarism and you have to write it in your own words. Then the review reads like a series of disjointed summaries. That is a patchwork. That is even the writer doesn't know that this happens particularly when you are not doing your work very regularly. If you are sparing regularly, that is either daily or it is weekend, those who are working and doing PhD, for them probably it is very difficult during the day, working days, so at least weekly, but you should remain into the link with your work. What you have done in the previous week should be recollected, and you should go further, and you have to write frequently whatever you have found in the literature review, in the references finding, you have to make a separate folder on your laptop or on your PC, and that should have the relevant all articles, topics, or other material what you have referred, and you should have the roots of that. That is, you must have the cross reference of that. So whenever you are referring, it should not be into the totally layman area. So disjointed, this patchwork is very common for the people who are once in a blue moon they are starting writing and they don't know what previously they have written, and then this appears in a very shabby way. And the review doesn't argue a point. Now, review doesn't argue a point means your own point, whatever is been there, and the review is much away from that. So what happens is when your referee is been referring the thesis and going through, the referee takes very long time to relate to what the researcher wants to say. And but then half of the time what happens is then because this is the disjointed patchwork is been appeared, there is no proper flow, there is no proper logical organizing and all that, then there is every likelihood that there will be the remark on your thesis that is some modification is been required. So don't take care of all these common errors and avoid them, so that your work can be accepted. Now going to the plagiarism and the copyright infringement. Plagiarism is basically taking the original work of others and publishing or presenting the same as your own creation. So the copyright infringement is simply an infringement upon the rights of the copyright holder. So whenever we are using someone else's work, then it should be cited. If it is been cited, then you are giving the due credit to the original worker. So this is to be borne in the mind by every researcher, whether only working towards the PhD or beyond that during the publication time, and while presenting your written work in any form. Everywhere you have to understand the copyright and the plagiarism. Now, precautions for the LR, that is a literature review: not to use other writers' words, phrases, figures, drawings, ideas, and the citation. And if few words or the sentences reproduced, then we should put it into the citation form or into the quotation mark. Then nothing to be borrowed from the other students, that is your fellow colleagues. Somebody is doing on the similar type of the work and you will borrow from that person and put it in your thesis. That is to be avoided. And the outside paper writing and the thesis writing, certain services always come up and they say that, okay, we will help you, we will write your thesis, we will do the publication, we will compile research paper, we will give you the credit, etc., etc. Don't fall prey to all these things. You remember one thing, that is the research is a very ethical field, and you have to consider and you have to always remember the ethical aspect of that, and therefore don't fall prey to all such things. Everything, whatever you are doing, write yourself only. That is my humble urge to all listeners today, that don't go into the shortcuts or you can say the shorter ways of gaining some temporary advantage, and which may lead to you in the longer term into the greater difficulties. Now, certain tips for writing I give normally to the students, that is, always write short and complete sentence, so that it has got the clear meaning only for one particular aspect and idea. Because when you are doing the literature survey, literature review writing, or even the thesis writing, introduction writing and all that, where someone else's work you are using it, there the interpretative short and the complete sentence is always better than going into the long sentences, which sometimes it goes into the different type of the meaning, or the meaning gets twisted as well. Make a paragraph for every new point, new idea, or any new test you are putting, new parameter you are putting, or the new aspect you are discussing. Make a paragraph of that. Always check the matter for grammar, because the grammar or the grammatical mistakes give a very bad impression, poor opinion of the reviewer, and as a result, though you may get the green signal for your thesis, but sometimes it's not up to that level. So always check the matter for the grammar, that is a comma, full stop, etc. Grammatically incorrect punctuations sometimes create very wrong interpretations. And the link your write-ups by the simple transition words like thus, hence, therefore, as a result, etc. So there is a continuity is been established in your write-up. So this is all the small things are been there, which are being very carefully to be taken care. Now literature review, we have done it. Now you have to go for the objective and the work plan. Now objective of your study work plan include this. We have slide, we have already seen it, but it has come into the repetition. This also has gone into it. Okay, now going for the questionnaire. Now for the questionnaire, here the title is missing. I'm really sorry. So this questionnaire, basically when you are framing for the survey purpose, the questionnaire, there by and large, there is no hard and fast rules about the design of a questionnaire. But there are certain number of points that can be borne in the mind of the researcher. So the questionnaire should be well designed, and it should be covering the research objectives. Now it should obtain the most complete and accurate information possible. That is, when you are making the questionnaire, it should be relevant to your topic and relevant to the objectives of your work. Now, what happens if the questionnaire is being very well designed? Very well designed questionnaire is easy for the respondents to give the necessary information and for the interviewer to get the answer. And it should be arranged in systematically for the sound analysis and the interpretation. Now, another thing is it would keep the interview in brief and to the point. And it will be so arranged that the respondents remain interested throughout the interview. When you are conducting the interview should be always very live, very like an active interview it should be. So the interviewer as well as the who is interviewing and who is attending the interview or who is the respondent should not go into the passive mode. So it should be kept always into the active mode, and that's how your questionnaire should be framed. So by and large, we are seeing on the TV when the journalist is been conducting the interview, and how he is keeping his questionnaires absolutely ready for the respondent. The similar strategy a researcher should observe in the questionnaire framing as well as conducting the interview. Now, ideal qualities of a questionnaire, by and large, what should be observed? It should be truthful question, it should be accurate answer should be given, and one answer to one should be available. Then it should accommodate all possible the responses. It should be into the specific and the simple language, mutually exclusive response obtaining kind of the thing. Variability in the response, it should not produce. It should produce or produces the variability in the response. That is, you are getting the responses onto the 5-point scale or so. That is a particular point. Suppose that I am proud of my nation. If that is your statement, or then the respondent is been giving, that is yes, no, etc. Neutral. So, or suppose it is by and large general, it is in India, the cervical cancer in women is very prominently observed in village areas. Now, if suppose this one is the statement. Now, if the respondent knows it, then he will say that, okay, I strongly agree. If he doesn't know, he will say I'm neutral. And if he says that, no, I know, but I do not agree, then it can be the I strongly disagree, or it is I disagree, and so on. So 5-point scale can be in this way, or it can be into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in case of the number, and the question can be in the different way where the answer is into the numbering one. So either way, this is the ideal qualities of the questionnaire, as one can design the questionnaire accordingly related to the topic. Now going to again to the research design, where it is a quantitative research. What are the features of the quantitative research? Now quantitative research involves the data collection procedures, where it is primarily in the numerical data. It can be analyzed. It can be analyzed by the statistical methods, and the examples can be a research which has been involving a survey using questionnaire, or and then which can be analyzed by the software such as SPSS, etc. Now the features of that, it is the quantitative research. It is centered around numbers. However, the numbers are contextual backing. Then there is the prior categorization, because when you talk about the numbers for the data collection phase and the categories and which are specific and the prior to the actual study, so it should be the prior categorization is being required. Now, the example here, suppose the respondents are asked to encircle the figures in the questionnaire. They need to know what those figures are representing, and to make sure each respondent gives their numerical answer based on the same understanding in order to avoid ambiguity. So now here, take one example of, suppose it is the data you are collecting about the result obtained in the class 8 in one particular school. And there it is, the data is been varying. Maybe the few students are having the similar percentage or the percentile. So over here, it is the numbers. When it has been the numbers and the respondent is been answering your questionnaire, there it is, he must know that the encircling the particular figure is the necessity or is the desirable way of putting it up the answer, and it should be a numerical answer based on their understanding he should give it, so that there is no ambiguity while interpreting that particular collected data. So this is what is this particular example or particular method it means. Now, in the quantitative research, it's been interested into certain common features of the groups of the people. Then large samples are being taken, and the result is been into the commonalities and that exist in the sample normally through the averages. So here, basically, what we are talking about is whenever there are the variables, because when the different people are being given the answers, obviously there will be the variable, and that variable should be embedded, or it is embedded into this collection, and the quantitative research also puts it up into the numbers. Now, the salient feature of the quantitative research is that it can be subjected to the statistical analysis in a very quite advanced manner, from the simple averages, mean to the multivariate, the analysis. And the language of the statistics is part of the quantitative vocabulary. So quantitative research is been the area where the statistical techniques are being applied in a very, very efficient way, and it can give the very good results as well. But the qualitative research, on the other hand, is at individuals as the cases. So in the qualitative research, basically, where we are, even though the more or less similar methodologies could be there, but it goes more into the descriptive research. Now this data collection slide we had already seen, but once again I am repeating that is what we are doing. Data collection, primary data, it is through personal interview, telephone interview, and the questionnaires. This slide is also repeating. Sorry. Hello. Able to hear Dr. Madhuri?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we are ending our presentation over here.